Hello world, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing good. And I know some of you guys have been waiting for this for a while. Today I'm going to show you my water change system. And it's what I spent my whole summer last year doing. It took me forever to do, plumbing it to all the tanks and everything. Now I did have the plumbers help me with some of the bigger equipment and do some work because I was running out of time. And a lot of the stuff I just didn't want to tackle because I would have had to teach myself it and all that. So enough talking about that. Let's get to it. Now this is what I used to use until I got up past 100 tanks, up around 150 tanks. Then it was just not manageable anymore. But the Python served me service for quite a long time, and it was definitely very handy. And I use that with the barrel system that I'm going to show you guys here later in the video. Now I do keep it because this is my safety net for my heated pond outside. If my power were to go out, I can use this on my house line and throw hot water into the ponds outside during the winter time if it's freezing. And a big reason for this water change system was so I could help maintain the time that it takes to actually change this many tanks and just the maintenance of them all. Because having them planted, it's a whole nother ball game with algae and everything else like that. So it's essential I get my water changes done so I don't have to do as much scraping on the front for algae and everything else like that as often. Now another thing that has helped that is I have cut my time cycle in half, so I run 4 off, 1 on, and 4 off. That way algae doesn't really get a hold on the glass as much as it does if it's on a continual 8 to 10 hours. Now the only thing I do battle is lime from that hard water. I battle that a little bit. That's what all this whiteness is on the glass here. It's all lime buildup. I was thinking about putting a water softener over here to help with the lime buildup, but I don't know if I'm going to bother with that. And I don't know if it'll help me that much. So recently I've been doing 50% plus water changes on all my tanks, just trying to get them caught up because they went months without water changes. Now to fight the lime, since I do have soft water and hard water, I'm planning on running soft water in all my tanks for 2 weeks, just at 25%. Now that they're kind of leveled off, they're around 300 some plus TDS, and if I do soft water I'll drop them around 200. Now I've done this before so I know it doesn't hurt them, and matter of fact I don't even treat my RO water or anything. I don't let it sit, nothing. I just pump it directly into the tanks. No problem at all, and it's just like rainwater if not better. So I'm hoping that will help keep the lime off the front of the glass and help me maintain my time as well. And then I'll alternate the next 2 weeks with the hard water. So 2 weeks hard water, 2 weeks soft water. And hopefully I can hold that schedule. Lately I've been doing it every week. But I feel like I'm caught up and to the point now I can do 2 weeks at a time. We'll see. That would be huge for me. That would free up a whole week. But I have around 200 tanks. So it takes time. And they're all planted. So they have issues and they need things taken care of as well. By transitioning, by alternating each week, like my Hudorite Crypt does not like soft water that much. So I think it really likes the lime in the water. So I'm thinking I can balance it out if I just alternate. And a reason why I didn't choose to go to automatic water change system is the way this fish room was already built and kind of how it evolved. I had a bunch of tanks on the bottom and I didn't really have any room to run gutters or anything like that. Same with all these stands. It would have been hard to really manage and do. So that's a big reason why I didn't go with automatic water change system. Just didn't make sense for what I got going on. It would have been really challenging, if not impossible. I don't like to say things are impossible, but sometimes things just aren't doable. Alright, so let's start from the beginning. This is the house line. It's a city water. Comes up from the bottom and goes in here and up and up and over. Then it goes up into here. Then all the way over into here. I was lucky that my girl let me do this to the utility room. I didn't even know what it was going to end up being. But this is kind of how it had to lay out. So here's where the water line goes in. And it goes into this side of this utility room. And it comes out here on this side of the wall. Then it ends up going into a pre-filter here. And this is pretty wild. Alright, so you can see this pre-filter, it's sparkling a lot. It actually looks like little shards of metal. And this is probably what was causing issues with my fish and stuff. Is all this metal, these little shards of metal. And here you can still even see it shining with the light off. I'm not sure what metal that is. My guess is aluminum or something like that. But they're definitely putting something in the water. I don't know what the heck that's about. But anyways, which is some scary stuff, especially for people who drink this water and bathe in it. I mean, we're rubbing all that all over our bodies and everything else, brushing our teeth with it. It's horrible. But anyways, so it goes into this pre-filter and then back down and out this wall. And then it comes out here on this side here, and then it goes up in here. I've got a valve there, and I do have a valve before the pre-filter. I've got a valve before all my equipment. That way I can shut it on or off if I ever have to do anything with it. But then it runs up here into a UV sterilizer. That does about 16 gallons per minute. And then it runs in here into a carbon blaster, which this is full of carbon to remove chloramine and chloramines. That filter I have on the other side removes chlorine, chloramine, plus some other stuff like heavy metals, like you saw previously. And then it runs into here, which runs into my tankless water heater, which I had to get this because my water heater I have already did not keep up. And I have to give a big shout out to my buddy Harold for helping me get this. He was a huge supporter and he pretty much made this possible. So big shout out to him. Thank you, Harold. And also a big shout out to all you Patreons who have been helping support this fish room. Without you guys, a lot of this wouldn't be possible either. It has helped me tremendously getting stuff done that has been needing to take this fish room and the channel to another level and to really just keep up with it. So thank you all. And also thank you that watch and have subscribed, and even the ones, especially the ones who watch the ads, because you guys have helped me as well, and the ones who share this content to help get this out into the world, because more people who watch it, more people who view it and all that stuff, the more it's going to help as well. I appreciate it. So then it gets heated up, and then it goes back out into this red line, which the red line shoots back up and out. And then it connects into here into my hot water heater, which is already an 80-gallon hot water heater, so I do still use that to store hot water up. And then a cold line and hot line connects to a shower head over here, which this is the one I mostly use. And I've got a temp gauge for it that stays around 74 degrees. So as water passes through it, it'll read the temperature. I always keep this at the same place. I don't really have to move that around at all. Now that I have the water heater and everything all kind of situated and synchronized. Then up here I have another cold and hot line. Now this is what I like to call my turbo boosters. As you can see, they're barely open. I have had them full blast before, filling up a 125 high up in the bedroom. It absolutely kicked sand all over the place, but it filled the tank in like 10 minutes from more than half of the water being out of it. So I rarely use my turbo boosters just because it's just too much. But anyways, it goes down through here usually, and here is the great part. Now I can open this valve up right here and I can have hard city tap water, because here in Indiana we have hard water. It's around 350 parts per million, just full of lime and calcium and everything else. So I can run that into any section I want, which I'll show you those in a second. And then over here, which I actually have this one open, I've been running the soft water line. This is the soft water line, so I can throw it into this carbon tower, which is just full of carbon, and it's used to get chlorine, chloramine out before it hits the RO unit, because the filters do not handle chlorine and chloramine very well. Another bypass valve just to kind of clean things out when we first put it up. So then it runs up into here and into a pre-filter, and this unit is a 3,000 gallon a day RO unit, which this will measure the wastewater, this will measure the actual product water, and then I just run it to a certain PSI, which is about 115 as marked there. And it also tells you on the membranes that you get where you should be on your PSI. So what's in here is a huge RO membrane, and it actually comes out at about 4 TDS after it runs through all this. And that's what this is right here. As you can see there, 4 TDS. That's the out. Here's the in. 329. 370. So it does tell you. So it comes out of this machine. It runs up through this line over into here. Another bypass so I can drain out anything. And then it runs into a DI system. Then on down from the DI, and here's where we actually fill our drinking water bottles, because you just can't trust the water you get from anywhere anymore, which is nice that we can have good water to drink, so that's a definite plus to this system. And then it runs up and into the full main system. And over here I have shut off valves for everything. So in here it actually goes into the garage section, and then it goes into the living room area where I've got my QT rack and that aquatic experience tank. And then over and down it goes up into the utility room. On over down here, this goes into the guest bedroom, and then it runs down this way, which goes into the main office and the main fish room, and also goes upstairs in the bedroom. And I do have it plumbed for some future projects if I ever get to them. And here you can kind of see how it works. It comes down from in the utility room into the main office. Then I have it come down into the 125 and then over as so. All the way over to there. And then it tees off over to here, so I do still have multiple sections inside of sections, which this goes to my rack and actually goes all the way up and over, and that goes up into the guest bedroom. Then I've got a drain line for the guest bedroom tank that goes into the bathroom that's on the other side of this wall, so I could do a quick water change up there. That's the only drainage one I actually use. I did have a huge drainage system that I was using, but I ended up ripping it out, and I'll show you guys that in a second. But then it goes down into this rack. You can see all the valves to all the individual tanks, and I can fill up multiple tanks at once, which is absolutely awesome, and it saves a ton of time. And there's some tanks for all you tank lovers. More valves, more valves. And here's about the only remnants of my drainage lines. I'm using vinyl tubing, which works great. But what I was doing is I had it in here with some mesh onto some suction cups that you'd use for like a heater or something. I could just turn the valve and then it would drain off into this, what I would call a gutter. And I've got a spout that looks like that, and I stick the spout into the gutter and have it over my barrel so it can just flow into the barrel, and then it pumps the water out into either my tub in the garage. It pumps it out to outside. It works okay. It was just too slow, the tubing wasn't big enough, and I just don't get as good of a clean. Granted, this is full of algae and everything else, but it's hard to get all the organics out when you only have a fine mesh strainer to actually clear it out, because you don't want to get any fry or baby shrimp or anything like that. So I ended up ripping it out. It wasn't working well. Now I actually still siphon. Each rack has its own tubing, has various sizes of tubing, so I can empty the water out at certain speeds and do certain kind of cleans. So if I got a real deep clean up on a top tank, I want a smaller diameter hose. But if I'm wanting to move water, especially on a bottom tank, then I have a much bigger gauge hose that can pull it out fairly fast. So they all have their own gauges, depending on how fast I want to remove the water. And for if some weird reason there's some kind of contamination anywhere, and it helps with cross-contamination, like each thing has its own net and everything else. So there is just protocol just to be safe than sorry. And in the drainage bucket, you can see I've actually got fish in there, some endlers that have made it through the hose, and they will end up going into quarantine. But I've got the biggest mag drive pump that I can get, and some of the other ones I just have huge fountain pumps which work well. I had to make fittings, as you can see there, to actually get the hook up to a garden hose. I like to use a garden hose, and that's how I discharge my water, which I can run this barrel all the way through, which I just scoot across the floor, and I can scoot it into this main fish room, main office, and into the guest bedroom. Which it's nice because I can use it in all these sections without having to run gutters on the bottom for like an automatic flow system. Granted, yes, I do have to siphon the water out and all that stuff, but I still get to have bottom tanks. So one day, I don't know, when I get my full fish barn, I'll probably do automatic. But for now, this is where I'm at with my water change system. Oh man, look at that, broke out the tripod. Means some serious YouTubing business today. Haha. Now I wanted to give you guys an idea of what it's like to drain one of these tanks. This is my biggest gauge hose. I believe it's 1.25 inches. And this is a 75-gallon tank full of pingu guppies. Kick my pump on. Now I like these guppies. I gotta scare them away from the hose, because they get curious. They'll move the water pretty quick. He is not sucking up any fish, so I constantly keep it moving like I am. And if any of them get close to it, I act like I'm going to eat them with the hose. That way they know it means business. They got to fear the hose. You don't want them to be friendly with it. You can see the water's moving pretty quick. This is real time. And there you have it. It's going. Now my bucket's getting kind of full. Usually this bucket fills before I can get halfway. And boom. And suck out any fish, and that pulled out 25% of the water in not even a minute, I don't think. Probably about a minute. In less than a couple minutes. Now I do need to upgrade my pumps, or at least clear this out. That way it gets rid of my water faster. But usually while I'm waiting on that, I go off and do another project or move something around that needs done. And this is the flow rate of the soft water system, of the RO, the 3,000 gallon per day. It's a pretty decent flow rate, not too shabby. And here's what it's like when the RO system is on. It's a little loud, but it gets the job done. Mostly because of that big pump back there. And after I run soft water, I do remineralize it. That's that white stuff in the tank that you see. You see, I mean, things grow well. But I use this Nilo CG GH booster, which is calcium magnesium. It's like $6 a pound, super cheap for GH. And I keep it in a container, and I've got a couple measuring spoons. That's the rough estimate of how many gallons. So I can quickly see and dose how I need to dose. Now this is what it looks like with the tap water flow, the hard water going in. It's a little bit quicker. Hard water tap water. Now let's see what it looks like with the turbo booster on. Now this is the full-blown turbo booster. As you can see, it's coming out pretty quick. Ain't gonna take any time to fill that up. And I did add some rocks down there, so it's not kicking up as much stuff. Now when it does break pressure and it reaches to the very bottom of this, it will just shoot straight down, and then it'll kick everything up. You can see it can fill up pretty quickly. And the coolest thing about this whole water change system is the fact I can have hard water on one side and soft water in another tank. So any tank can get switched from hard water to soft water, just like, well, not just like that, but after doing some water changes. So I can run any kind of parameter. I can blend it 50-50. I can do any kind of mix. I can pretty much get any kind of water into any tank that I need to, which is just absolutely awesome. And with the temperature I need it to be, unlimited water at the temperature I need it to be as well. So it really allows me to do a lot more than I could. And also to note, not all my tanks get hard water, so I do have just soft water tanks. Like these Galaxies, I definitely don't want to be giving them any KH that is in my hard water. And as far as this whole system, it's off of a PEX system, P-E-X, PEX system, PEX tubing, and the ball valves are shark bite ball valves. Now they're plastic, but they're a lot cheaper. When you gotta get 200 ball valves, it can get very expensive really quick. So that cost me an arm and a leg. It costs a lot to put this in, but it would have cost me even more to have somebody else do it. So I spent a lot of my time and a lot of sacrifice to get this in, but it's so worth it. Now on here I have the stainless steel mesh intakes. These are usually run for filters so baby shrimp don't get sucked in. But what I use it for is the bottom is completely solid, so when the water hits it, it'll just splatter all over the place, which you guys see in the video here. And it disperses it, and by splashing all over the place, it keeps it from turning up all the substrate and kicking the scape around. So it makes it a lot more gentle as it goes into the tank. And it's all mostly trunked with 3/4 and leads into a 1/2 inch. And for safety reasons, I don't keep any water pressure in these lines, so I go ahead and clear the water out. Say after I'm done doing all the tanks, I'll open it up on the bottom and relieve any of the water that's in the line. That way there's no pressure, and if I'm not home, something happens to these valves and something goes awry, that won't happen because there's not water pressure in the line all the time. Sparky, come to join the party? Hey, no. Man, I gotta go. And for my tanks, that gets a little hairy with all the endlers, which I've gotten pretty good with training them not to get around the hose, so they usually don't even mess with it, or I don't have to mess with it. But I use a hang on the back intake. This is from Aqua Clear, and I did have to mash it a little bit to make it fit, but I got it to fit in the stainless steel intake, and that helps keep from sucking up babies and guppies if you haven't quite got them trained to stay away from it. Alright, so there you have it. That's my new water change system, and a little bit how I do my water changes and to why and all that stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed as always. Hope you guys learned something. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so. Hit that subscribe button, that notification bell. Keep you up to date of what all I'm doing. I'm breeding fish, I'm breeding shrimp. I've got all kinds of stuff going on. Plants, all kinds of stuff. So there'll be many more videos to come out and that will keep you guys up to date. And until the next episode, everybody, peace.